welcome to the AUC Data Science Seminar Series. So today we are definitely in for a treat. But before we get started, I'm going to just make a few announcements. So first, welcome. Welcome to the seminar. Glad to have you here today. First, we want to do a special thanks to the sponsors of the Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative, Uber, United Health, the AUC, Woodruff Library, Truist, Coca-Cola Company, and SAP. So thank you so much for your sponsorship. We want to do a quick announcement. All AUC students here in the Atlanta University Center, we have an upcoming From the Formula to the Fridge on Wednesday, November 10th. It's from 5 to 7 p.m. So learn some key insights about SAP and the Coca-Cola Company, and they have some paid internship opportunities. So I'm going to pause here for a moment if you want to take a picture of this QR code so you can get the registration information. And we can also put that registration information in the chat. So that's upcoming soon in a few weeks. So we're really excited about this event. We also have a virtual computer lab for AUC students, faculty, and staff. If you're wanting access, please let us know. We will be most happy to get you connected. October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So happy Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And as they say, do your part, be cyber smart. So we're excited about talking today about the interplay between data and cybersecurity. Before we do that, just want to give a quick in the news. Most recently, I guess August, Senator Ossoff bipartisan bill was sent to fund cybersecurity training at HBCU, and it passed the Key Senate Committee. And he actually visited the AUC this past summer. And essentially this bill will create the Dr. David Satcher Cybersecurity Education Grant Program, which will fund cybersecurity education and job opportunities. And they are pitching that 50% of the funds will go to historically Black colleges and universities and other minority serving institutions. So I'm excited to see about how this bill will impact cybersecurity training at HBCUs. And of course, we're thankful for the work of John Ossoff. So without further ado, today we have three phenomenal panelists who will talk to us today about the impacts of cybersecurity, data protection, and privacy laws in society. Deborah Dent is the Chief Information Officer at Jackson State University. So in this position, she oversees the management of the university's network and communications infrastructure, academic information technology, enterprise resource planning system, and all the other cyber infrastructure functions. She's also the PI of a National Science Foundation networking infrastructure grant, as well as other grants. And she is the founding member of the Minority Serving Cyber Infrastructure Consortium, which is a partnership to advance cyber infrastructure capabilities on HBCU, Hispanic serving institutions, tribal colleges, universities, and other minority serving institution campuses. So we are super excited to have Dr. Dent here today. Tim McKnight, he is the Chief Security Officer at SAP in their Global Security Unit in the Office of CEO Board area. He is responsible essentially for SAP's overall security strategy to ensure that SAP and their customers have a consistent and convenient security experience, establishing SAP as a recognized and trusted leader in the industry. So in this role, he develops, implements, and manages all of SAP's security policies, standards, and guidelines, among data protection as well as privacy laws. He's held multiple roles, including chairman of the Internet Security Alliances, and he's also a member of the board of advisors for Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services. So we're really excited to have you here today, Tim McKnight. Dr. William Christian is a mathematician, and previously he was the former deputy chief for National Security Agency's Statistics and Machine Learning Research Office, even though he's still there at the National Security Agency, unless I missed something. He studies the mathematics and applications of information processing, including data science, machine learning, graph analytics, and recommender systems. I've known, I'm not sure if I should say this, I've known Dr. Christian since I was a wee young graduate student right after I finished at Spelman. So we go way back. He did his PhD at Rice, and he did his BS Math at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So he started at the National Security Agency in 2004. So we're really excited to have all of these three panelists here today to share their expertise. Please feel free to put questions in the Q&A as they are speaking, and we will address those questions at the end. Oh, and if you see that there is a pop-up screen here that is a survey. So if you could take a moment to fill out the survey, that would be great. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first panelist, Dr. Deborah Dent. Take it away.
Okay, good morning. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Washington and the whole team for inviting me to participate in this AUC Data Science series. It's really exciting to be a part of. Do your part. And I'm going to be, I am the Chief Information Officer from Jackson State University, and I'm also a member of the Minority Serving Cyberinfrastructure Consortium. So I will be coming and talking to you from the viewpoint of a CIO and also a little bit of a researcher. Okay, first of all, a little bit about my institution. I'm employed and a graduate of Jackson State University. At Jackson State University, I'm moving the poll out my way so I can see. Jackson State University is a historically Black university. We're a Carnegie doctoral research intensive public institution of higher education, and we're located in Jackson, Mississippi, under the leadership of our new president, Mr. Thomas Hudson. Okay, so at Jackson State, I get the opportunity and the privilege of working with the academic side of the house and working with the data science and cybersecurity initiatives. We offer cybersecurity training in our programs, in our computer science programs, in our computer engineering programs. And we also have a relatively new, it's been here, I guess, about the last 5 years, computational and data-enabled science and engineering graduate program in which we offer masters and PhDs. And the other thing that's so exciting about the whole field of data science is that we get to collaborate across the campus in not only the STEM area, but in the non-STEM areas also. Now, as far as enterprise IT, we're required, our job is to provide protection for our campus and for our students and our faculty and staff and our research. So the first thing is that we look at is that security assessments are very critical. We normally would have a security assessment on our campus every 3 years, because that's what was required by our state institutions' requirements. But lately, we've increased the number of security assessments. And in fact, this year, we've had 2 already. And we like the security assessments because it gets us a chance to look at, do we have any holes? Can a criminal slip in? And with the world that we're living in now, we need to have every tool and every possibility that we can have to make sure that we're safe. This is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and thank you for having this event today. With Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we have a chance to make the campus just bring different things up to their attention. But just like we say, Black History Month should be more than just 1 month. Cybersecurity shouldn't be more than 1 month. We need to always be aware of cybersecurity issues. We also have an opportunity, our enterprise IT and our research areas, into collaborating on research projects. We have cybersecurity research projects, and one project in which I was the PI over, we had cyber warfare research. And with this one, we had the students were developing different tools, and they said, we need large data sets, we need large data sets. And so we said, wait a minute, on the enterprise side, we have our logs from our student information system. Okay, here, we're going to let you look at our logs. And when they started running their tools on it, they were able to see some activity that was going on. And because of that activity that they saw was going on, we were able to address an area that could have been an issue in the future. So that's why we see that it's important that we have cybersecurity and data science tied together. So when Dr. Washington was introducing me, and I said it earlier, I'm a member of the Minority Serving Cyberinfrastructure Consortium. And when we say the word cyber infrastructure, we're using the NSF definition, and we're talking about more than just hardware infrastructure and network infrastructure. We're talking about all of the resources that you need, the people, and the equipment, and the platforms and the collaborations. So we've come together, and we're working together to do what we can do together, what we can't do alone. We can do it better together. Recently this year, and starting last year, we did a survey. And we did a survey on data and computer infrastructure, and we sent the survey out, and we had about, I guess it was about 291 respondents to the survey. And it went out to the HBCUs and the Hispanic serving institutions and the tribal colleges. And as a result of that survey, what we found out is that across all of it, of the institutions, we have the same basic needs. And then, of course, with the pandemic hitting, one of the big needs across everybody was broadband issues. We need Wi-Fi on our campuses and in our communities for our students, staff, and faculty. We also need workforce development, student literacy, and advances in the skills in data and computing, along with faculty training to support a robust cyber infrastructure in the research area. Collaboration. You have a consortium, we have consortium. It's important that we all collaborate together so that we can accomplish together what we can't do separately. Institutional operations. We need to make sure that we have the infrastructure available for all of the research data and computing needs. And then we believe that we can make a societal impact on this. There's a strong potential for data and computing research on these issues. Now, sometimes when I wake up, I think I'm in the twilight zone. I wake up and I say, okay, I'm going to go back to February, the end of February, 2020, and I'm going to wake up and life is going to be normal. But that's just a dream, right? So we're living in a new world and a new time, and we hear it constantly. We're dealing with unseen enemies. We have this germ, this virus that's caused this pandemic. And then along with that, we already had cyber attacks, but it seems like they partnered with a pandemic, and it's just growing, and we have ransomware. And then we have all of this political unrest. It's just growing. And then all of this brought a spotlight that, hey, there's a digital divide, and we need to attack and address this digital divide. So the pandemic increased our awareness, our physical hygiene awareness. Would you have ever believed that you would look on the CDC website and they were going to teach you how to wash your hands? But when we had the pandemic, that became critical. And so what about cyber hygiene? Cyber hygiene is critical right now, and we all need to practice it. Sometimes we take it for granted. I got this chart, this graph here, or this picture from a Dell presentation, and it talked about enterprise cybersecurity hygiene. And this is what we as CIOs and on the enterprise IT side of the house, we need to look at so that we can keep all of you safe, all of our everybody safe. But this is just as important for our research computing. All of these items on this checklist, we all have to do it. If you have research computing resources, you're in charge of your machines. You have to make sure that you follow the checklist, because these criminals, they're just looking for a doorway, and not even a doorway. They're just looking for a crack to come in. So if we're safe on this side, but you're not safe on your side, then they can easily find a way, and they're working at it every day. They're changing their tactics. So as you said, do your part, be smart. Cybersecurity hygiene is for everybody. It's for the students, the faculty, staff, the researchers, and for IT. And when we look at it, we look at things that we're dealing with now. There's remote work and online classes. This requires even more security awareness. When you're at home, you need to make sure that you're using your VPN and that you're secure, that you're encrypting your data. Your data is at risk. When you're doing your research from home, you must be aware. Read your privacy practices, the privacy laws. Make sure that you're adhering to them. Know that even one thing that I know that I don't pay attention to, I get these little pop-ups that say, this is your privacy. Click on it if you agree with it. Or if I'm downloading an app, I just click on it. Yeah, I agree with this. But you need to know, what are they doing with your data? How are they sharing your data? We've been saying this for years. Don't click on the link. Ransomware and all of them, they're just trying, and they're coming up with new tactics every day. And then even when you're doing your video conferencing, I don't know if you've experienced the Zoom bombing, where somebody slipped in on your Zoom meeting, and it's because you were in a hurry, or you didn't think it was important, or when you were setting up the meeting, you didn't want to make it too difficult for everybody to get on, and boom, you had some unwelcome visitors on your Zoom meeting. So we have to be careful about that. So we need to look at our features and our research opportunities. There's a term about the missing millions, and the director of NSF loves to use that term, the missing millions. And there are millions that are available to participate in STEM. And there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of funding, there's a lot of studying going on. But what I'm here to say is that in all of these areas that you're in, the data science, the cybersecurity area, we have the missing millions. We were preparing a presentation a couple of years ago. This was in 2017. And they said, oh, for cybersecurity workers, by the year 2022, we're going to be short about 1.8 million people. So I was reading up on it, and it says at the end of 2020, we were already at a shortage of 3.5 million. So we're encouraging you. We're encouraging you to do whatever we can do. Is that we need to get our students, we need to get our coworkers trained up in this area. because there's work out there to be done and there's job opportunities out there for us. So in closing, we have that missing million in the area of cybersecurity, in the area, and you're doing this excellent job in data science. I loved your students. Wow, they were awesome. In the area of cyber infrastructure, Dr. Washington, we talked about AI. You know, we got to grow in those areas, but we have the missing million, and we're going to do our part to train our students and our faculty and our staff so that they're going to come to our institution and get those missing millions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dent. Really enjoyed that. So next up we have Tim McKnight.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Hopefully you can see me and hear me. Oh, wonderful. And that's a tough act to follow, Dr. Dent. You're getting me a little excited too. So I love it, the missing millions. So I guess as the security practitioner here, right, I've spent, I guess I'm coming on 30 years as a security officer, first 10 years in government as an FBI agent, in the last 20 years in industry as a security officer. And yes, I've got it all, everything from physical security to information security, our product security efforts, et cetera. So thank you, Dr. Washington, for the opportunity here with AUC. I think it's great timing, you know, and we look forward to the partnership with SAP. A little bit about SAP. We are a business software company, global, about 100,000 employees worldwide. And we have quite a bit of efforts around security, machine learning, AI, which certainly I would love to touch on in my 10 minutes or so here. But again, this is exciting for us. So I guess as the security practitioner, I'll highlight a few challenges we have in the cybersecurity world and try and draw together the fact that data science, you know, and machine learning and artificial intelligence are becoming predominant areas for us to begin to close some of the challenges and gaps we have. So the challenges I'll highlight is one, which Dr. Dent just highlighted. The workforce gap is significant. And yes, I'm sure we can say it's between 2.5 million to 3.5 million unfilled jobs a year in the cybersecurity space. So first thing I'll say is if we can leave anything with you, I can tell you that it's a great area to work. Every day is different. Every day is challenging. So I always joke, I want to infect as many young people and students with the idea that cybersecurity is a career that they can have interest in. And certainly, you know, we have an internship program. Would love to highlight that here and see if we can get some students to join us in the coming months and years to come. But with so many jobs going unfilled, we also have an additional challenge, which to Dr. Dent's point, the missing millions, right? So global diversity, equity, and inclusion has been challenging in the cybersecurity and security in general space. We need to do more as an industry, as a company, to begin to give opportunities to those that you know, generally wouldn't be drawn into the space, or they just haven't been given those opportunities. So we certainly see, you know, one of the organizations, ISC2, has stood up a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force that is now focused explicitly on cybersecurity, and we're excited about that as well. And it was great to see Senator Ossoff with the HBCU efforts and additional monies. I think the last time I saw this was under the Obama administration, and I'm excited to see that happening again. And we at SAP are looking forward to working with the HBCUs as well. So that's sort of the workforce gap that we're facing into, the diversity inclusion gap, which also gives a perspective on security that we're just not getting today and we need to improve upon. I think the other areas is sheer volume of data. You heard that a few times here. Data and assets being stored, transacted, transmitted. It's exponential. 64 zettabytes today, 181 in 2025. And I can certainly tell you, I love that one of the students sort of talked about the quantified life that's happening. Whether it's this lovely device on my arm or devices in my home, the growth of measurement is driving better outcomes for all of us. But as you can imagine, all of that data has to be analyzed. Models have to be created that will create those better outcomes. And we have to prevent the bad outcomes when data is misused as well. So I think that sheer volume of data and the increase, I can certainly tell you, 16 years ago when I was in defense, we talked about the growth of the internet. People will have cameras, the video captures will increase, the size of those files. So we're here now on that. And I think that the opportunities are significant, not just in the world of health, but security. So, and I'll touch on that in a moment. So next would be, cyber is asymmetric, right? You can launch an attack from anywhere in the world. It's very hard to prosecute some of these people, these groups, and it has a very low cost of entry. So that's another challenge we're facing into in the cybersecurity space. As I say, it's a growth industry for the bad guys and girls as well. So we need to continue to improve our capabilities day over day, and able to be moving faster and predictive in the way we defend our companies, our governments, our interests as citizens as well. So what does that all mean, right? Those are some of the challenges. I can certainly say that just in the last 5, 6, 7 years, because of those challenges, we're clearly beginning to see significant investment in security companies that are focused on data science, machine learning, automation, and artificial intelligence, right? Whether it's as simple as the antivirus on your desktop, your laptop, your server, or whether it's something more sophisticated, a network intrusion detection system, risk analysis system, et cetera. So I thought I in the last few minutes, I loved actually, I saw on the AUC website a quote from Dr. Williams from Spelman College, which said, "Data science often studies people, and hence it is a social science." I think that's extremely interesting to me, in the sense that a lot of this data can be used, in ways that can predict attacks from a cyber perspective and help us better defend, against bad actors. And so I'll touch on a few of those. So at least in my world today, over the last 10 years in particular, we've been building, a lot of corporate companies and obviously government agencies have been building what we call threat intel and hunting organizations, which means they're really taking a look at attacks, both near misses and attacks that are successful, and determining, what were the tactics, techniques, and procedures, used by those actors. Were they hands on keyboard, interacting with the system? Were they automating that? Was it being delivered by, crimeware as a service from a cloud entity? Did they have certain expertise in building certain types of exploits? So I'm certainly seeing that in that space alone, more and more the data science discipline is required to take a look at vast amounts of data from an attack perspective, everything from a simple scan of a system to exploitation, and taking over a system. in order to come up with better ways to defend, to predict and really mitigate the actions of the attacker. So that's one area. I think another area we certainly see it is vulnerability management. So, to my point earlier, the growth of assets, we've clearly seen, I joke every year I check my network, not probably more than that, every quarter I check my home network to see what else has been added. And you're constantly finding, that everything that you used to have was 5 or 6 things, your PCs, now you've got your thermostats, now you've got your game boxes, and the list goes on. Whatever can be connected to the network will be connected to the network. And those obviously come with software, and software exponentially has vulnerabilities, and we need to address those vulnerabilities. So more of what we're doing is analysis of that data in order to determine, how can we best defend those systems in a business and take right prioritization around that work. So I'll stop there and I'll hand it back to Dr. Washington, and hopefully that's in line with what we're talking about. So.
Thank you so very much. That was great. Thank you. So our next speaker is Dr. Bill Christian.
Hi. Yeah, I didn't know her that long. I was a baby when we met. She was just out of graduate school, but no, it's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. As was said, I'm in the Senior Technical Development Program now. Used to be the Deputy Chief for Statistics and Machine Learning Research. I'll talk a little bit about the STDP later on. So I'm from the National Security Agency. And for those who don't know, our mission is twofold, right? So we have an offensive and a defensive mission. The offensive mission is to gather and produce foreign signals intelligence. So each member of the intelligence community has a certain domain of expertise or an area of authorization, and we are outside the US. The second part of our mission is to protect what we call the national security systems. And you can think of those as the critical DoD communication systems and government communication systems. So we sometimes do advising on other national systems, on major threats, but our mission is to protect the national security systems. That's what most people would call cybersecurity. The way we do that is with a diverse technical team. So we typically have mathematicians, linguists, analysts, computer scientists, computer engineers, and a full support of what we call support staff, or I guess I call them support staff. Those are our business managers, our office managers, all the program managers who kind of make sure that all of the wheels are getting greased. They're critically important to everything that we do. The other thing that we value is cultural diversity. And that's not just lip service. And every time I walk through the halls of NSA, I'm just surprised at the diversity that's there. Everything from ethnic diversity to we hire a lot of people with disabilities. We hire women and men, and just so many different. Just you name it, we probably have that that group, that demographic represented. Some of it is just because having all of that cultural diversity helps us to frame problems better, to understand problems better, and to understand where other people are coming from. So if we had a monolithic group working at NSA, then we would only have one way of thought. So having that diversity gives us multiple ways of thinking. The other part is that it gives us a broader pipeline, right? One of the things that industry, including government, has realized is when you exclude 10, 20, 30% of the population, you're missing out on a huge workforce that could be helping solve these critical problems. We have lots of partners. We have partnerships with other federal agencies, obviously. We partner with academia, we partner with industry, and we partner with some foreign allies. One of the things that we always realize is that there is a constant need for change. So whether it's on our offensive mission or our defensive mission, our adversaries are constantly changing, and the tactics are constantly changing. Just think about trying to keep spam out of your inbox, right? So in the old days, you could just say, oh, if it comes from this sender, it's spam. You set up the rule and you're done. Well, those senders realized that they are being blocked. So they started adding, so they started changing their addresses. And so now you have to say, well, if it has this content, then block it. Well, they got smarter. And so they started changing their content. And so now it's not enough to just have rules, but you actually have to have full algorithms. You have to have the full suite of machine learning tools so that you can analyze the data that's in your email. So just imagine what's going on your computer as it's trying to figure out whether this is spam or not, right? It's going through doing machine learning, doing natural language processing, trying to figure it all out. That's what's happening on your computer for your inbox. Our job is to figure it out for the entire national security system. In the old days, there used to be something called denial of service attacks against computers. And that was just me trying to deny your computer service by just hitting you with a bunch of requests. And then it became a distributed denial of service attack. Then it became malware. I want to put some bad software on your computer. Now it's ransomware. Like I said, the tactics are constantly changing. And what we look for is people who are willing to take on new challenges, people who are willing to not just do the same job they did yesterday or the same job they did 10 years ago. So like I said, I'm in what we call the Senior Technical Development Program. One of the things that NSA is really big on is professional development. Like I said, because our adversaries are always changing, the tactics need to change. So I was, like I said, Deputy Chief of Statistics and Machine Learning Research. As of 2 weeks ago, I stepped down from that position because I want to retool. I want to develop in a new area. And so I'll take the next 3 years to do that so I can come back stronger and able to help the agency with a new set of problems. And so if that's something that you like, I'm more than willing to talk to you about that. One of the concerns that we have as an agency is the technical health of our nation. We can't stress that enough. As an aside, personally, I just see the decline of so many different areas of technical health. So I'm glad to be able to speak to the AUC. I'm glad to hear about what's going on at Jackson State. I'm glad to hear about all these different programs building up the technical health. As a mathematician, I think mathematics is a key area that we need much more strength. It's not the new and shiny computer science. It's not machine learning as we know it. But if you understand machine learning, it's really all applied math, applications of mathematics. But at NSA, we don't just do machine learning. We do cryptography. My sister organization, they do cryptography. The other one does cryptology. So basically building crypt systems, attacking crypt systems. We do different algorithm development. We do risk assessment, an area of recommender systems. All these different tools, it all is fundamentally mathematics. So some of the things that NSA does to support the technical health of our nation, we fund a lot of opportunities. So we have a program called the Mathematical Sciences Program. We fund REUs, research for experiences for undergraduates, if you're not familiar with that term. We fund conferences. We fund internships. So I will note that we have an internship that's closing, applications close next week. I believe it's next Sunday. So if you go to intelligencecareers.gov/NSA, you can find our internships. I encourage you to apply. We also have a program called the Science of Security, and that has partnerships with academia all over the world, funding different things they call lablets. We fund competitions and awards. I knew I was going to forget the name of this. I should have written it down, but it's the computer science competition that was in Orlando last month. We often go to the International Science and Engineering Fair. We have fellowships for graduate school. These are the things that NSA is doing to hopefully build up the strength of our nation. Some of those people may eventually come work for NSA, but ultimately we feel like if the strength of our nation is good, then we can just glean from that improvement. So when we look for mathematicians, we don't hire particular mathematicians. So some people say, oh, I want to work at NSA because I've always enjoyed cryptography. I've never done cryptography, well, except for a 6-month stint in another development program that I was in. I don't do cryptography. I do, like I said, machine learning. My background is combinatorial optimization. We look for people who can think mathematically. So there's a difference between arithmetic and mathematics. Arithmetic is application of a principle over and over and over and over again. We want people who can think abstractly, who can generalize from whatever that application is. Let's step back and see, how do we make the general solution? We look for people who can prove things, right? Who can do proofs, because to some extent, it's great that you have a solution that works, but it's also great that we know that it works and we know how it works. And so we really recommend, whatever your field is, if you're getting into this cybersecurity area, getting into data science, can't stress enough that you understand the mathematical way of thinking. For us, we have a higher standard of accuracy that we have to keep, right? When we're looking at, is somebody a threat? We can't say, maybe, right? We need something stronger than maybe. And so we're looking for people who can apply that mathematical rigor to problems. And so finally, as a non sequitur statement, nothing really related to what I'm saying here. But one of the things that I heard, one of the statements I heard is, if a product is free, you are the product, right? So when you think about your own personal data security, data protection, when you're looking at all these social media sites, you're looking at all these tools, if it's great to use it and you don't have to pay anything, just realize you're the product that the company is selling. So thank you.
Thank you so very much. It's enlightening. It's good. Oh, so thank you all to your panelists. So, and thanks everyone for filling out the poll. I think Bettina may have some poll results, and we'll do a reporting out and sharing of the polls. And then after I do the reporting out, we'll do some Q&A. So feel free to write questions in the Q&A portion. So the poll just ran away from me. Bettina, do you have the poll there? There we go. So what is your status? So we have, currently enrolled students. So we have 3 currently enrolled students and 31 professionals. So today, for today's seminar, we have a lot of professionals. Now we stream this live on Facebook, and we also post this on YouTube. And some of our faculty use this as part of their teaching. So we'll go on to longevity. So we have sophomore and juniors here, and some graduate students here in the audience as well. Our gender split, we have 59% female and 41% male. And those on the seminar, 26% live in Georgia and 71% don't live in Georgia. And we have one who is an international. So if you'd like to put where you're from, feel free to put that in the chat. It's great. Glad to have everybody join us. So for the question, do you feel that you have control over the data collected about you? 3 or 9% of the respondents said yes, and 65% said no. 26% said maybe. For my computer has no value to hackers, they do not target me. So 12% say that's true, they're not targeting me. And 88% said, yeah, they're targeting my computers. Do you have antivirus software installed in your computer? 76% said yes, we should say installed and actually deployed, implemented and updated. And 50% said no, and 9% said not sure. Things to consider. Do you know how to identify an email scam? 91% said yes, we know how to do that. And 9% said not sure. So, you know, the email scams, they can get pretty sophisticated. How often do you change your passwords? 35% said every month. 35% said every year, and 29% said can't really remember. So just some things to think about as we celebrate Cybersecurity Awareness Month. As Dr. Dent says, we do celebrate it year round. So thank you all for filling out the poll. Great to have you here. So now I'll ask the panelists to go ahead and turn your cameras back on, and we'll enter into the Q&A stage here. So someone asked, how do you balance the mass volume of data collection that cybersecurity currently demands with the data minimization that privacy requires?
Yeah, I can certainly jump in because that's yeah, definitely part of my day job. So yeah, no, actually, so I have a counterpart organization under the Chief Privacy Officer, which, as you can imagine, has quite a few attorneys and some attorneys who have computer science degrees as well. So we partner with them in terms of what we call privacy impact assessments, which actually assess, everything from, how is the data being used, how is it being stored, how is the system architected. As you can imagine, we're also a German company by history, so they're very serious about compliance with privacy as a company, and really treat the whole company as a German company. So, and it's actually becoming almost a very significant discipline, just like security, where we're doing what's called privacy by design, just like security by design, early on in implementations for customers. And as you can imagine, it's quite a demand by customers, as well, especially in Europe in particular. So that's how we handle it today. I do look forward to more technical implementations of that. I've actually been talking to a few companies that are thinking about how do we, we call it shifting left on all this. How can we shift left all the way into the code itself when the developers are creating it, to know that there's some guardrails while they're developing that prevent them from making, mistakes in terms of how data would be utilized. So hopefully that helps.
And from our perspective, the data we collect always has to have what we call a defeat. And so as we're collecting data, we do our best to make sure that we're not collecting data that we shouldn't have, particularly US person data. And then as our analysts go through the data, if they find US person data, it has to be reported. So that's one way that we do quarterly reports to, fortunately, I don't have to do these reports, so now I just forgot where they go. But I think to the Inspector General, and that says this is how much data we collected, why it was collected, how it was collected. And the other way is when analysts do queries, they're always audited. So if I enter a query into a system, somebody else will always look at my query to make sure that I'm asking the right questions.
I like those checks and balances there. Go ahead, Dr. Dent.
Oh, okay. It's a challenge, a really big challenge. And we do have audits that take place that look at what we're doing. But what we're having to do is we're having to hire an additional staff just to look at that. So we have our cybersecurity people, but this is a whole new area. So I'm looking for the new thing, privacy as a service, that can come about. We got everything else as a service. So that's another area that we need to look at.
Really interesting. Thank you. So someone says, when it comes to lower income communities, the philosophy of cybersecurity may not be embraced the way it is among professionals. With this in mind, the impact is still high. What are some techniques or resources would you all recommend that we use to communicate the criticality of embracing cybersecurity standards in lower income communities?
Well, I'll start this one off then. I think community outreach is that we need to go outside of our walls. We focus on inside, but we have to go outside of our walls. We have to go in our communities and put on workshops in our community, go to community centers, go to our churches, go to those areas that we know that there's not the right type of training available, because somebody has to do it, and it's our communities. So we need to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. As I was thinking about the answer, I realized that I'm guilty of what I'm about to say myself. When I think of cybersecurity and when we talk about cybersecurity, we always talk about it at the grand institutional organizational level. And it just reminds me that cybersecurity is something that I practice with my own home network when I'm practicing, when I'm at my computer. And I think as an industry, we need to talk about cybersecurity at the personal level. Yeah, it's kind of like, we talk about recycling programs, within our community, but we really need to talk about recycling in each person's home.
Yeah, it's very, very well said.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, I guess for us, it's becoming a bit of a grassroots here at SAP, and it's early days for us. We need to get out there. Certainly, I always joke that I want to leave my career and my team to some smart, diverse people with different views than what I had over the last 30 years. So I think it's incumbent upon us. I mean, I've highlighted the one around ISC2 as a group. And actually, a good friend of mine, Larry Whiteside, who was an information security officer for years, has started also an international consortium of minority cyber professionals, which is just gearing up in the last year to really get out there and really help. And I can certainly say when I was a professor, I loved walking onto the grounds of the university because young people get you excited about the future, and the further upstream we can swim on that with the children is going to be great results, and it's exciting.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Tim, for answering the question, the Q&A. So I don't know if the person had a chance to look, talking about different certifications during the security journey. So he listed some there. So if you haven't checked it out, check out in the Q&A. It's good information.
Yeah, I think there's, I always say there's many paths there, right? So, whether it's non-traditional with certifications or whether it's traditional university path, I've had a combination of both in my career, even some time with NSA. So certainly I think that, these are great programs, and some of those are, SANS and others are great places to start.
That's great. So someone says, wonderful talks all around. I totally agree. So do you all feel that we stress ethical programming, algorithm design, analysis, et cetera, as much as we should during the higher educational process for our STEM students? Maybe those who will go on and address these cyber challenges? Do you have any thoughts as to what you would like to see happen?
I don't want to speak for everything that's going on in academia, but I do know of lots of schools that are introducing required courses in engineering ethics, data science ethics, and I think that's a good trend. So I'll just say that. I find that, whether it's a course or not, a lot of the people who come and work for the agency, maybe it's just the younger generation, are always constantly thinking about, is what we're doing ethically or ethical? So I don't know if it's schooling or, just awareness.
I can only comment on my son who just graduated, and I always would ask, he just graduated college in May, and I think the whole 4 years I would ask him, so how much security are you learning? How much privacy are you learning? And of course, I never feel like it's enough, but I certainly think these are areas that absolutely we need to spend more time on. It's interesting because we have an artificial intelligence business, and we're working with that business on, the ethical aspects in development. And I think it is really critical because data, I forget the saying, but in terms of, how data can be used, it can be used for good and be on the side of angels, or as you can imagine, it can either intentionally or unintentionally be used for bad purposes. So we certainly want to make sure that, it's being done ethically.
And thank you, Dr. Dent, for addressing the question, the Q&A, but I just want to go ahead and just read it. What challenges of implementing zero trust are unique to educational settings? And then also, what is this zero trust?
Okay. the challenge, well, the zero trust is we have attacks constantly, right? Every day. And most of our defense mechanisms are old already. You know, when you have the software that you have on your machine that you have that's scanning and everything is based on information that's they've already put it in the database because some kind of attack has already occurred. So zero trust reduces that. We have to reduce that time, and it has to be more proactive. And so there are tools out there. There are AI tools, and there's a lot of tools out there and services that are addressing the zero trust. Now, the challenge that we've had on the academic side is that we knew it was out there, but we couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford the services. We need the training. We can't afford it. But we've had CARES funding to come in that has been enhancing our funding in IT, infrastructure, and all of those areas. So we've been able to take some of that funding and start investing in the zero trust security measures.
Great, awesome. That's good to hear, because we keep hearing about these data security breaches in higher education. So that's good to hear. That's good. So somebody in the audience said there's a big gap between the general public's understanding of data privacy and professionals and technicians. And hopefully this panel is a way to reach the broader public about areas of data privacy and so on. So I encourage everybody to share with your friends. So what all do you think can be done to educate the public about technical and legal issues regarding data?
It may sound cheesy, but I would love to see some public service announcements coming out from your undergraduates. So, in your data science and your security classes, having an assignment of creating the public safety announcement. So, can't wait to see them. Send them to me when they're done.
I'm writing it down for homework.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea, and even the health and wellness aspect of the use of technology in general, right? I think would be another area. I mean, I have a house full of a couple kids, so I certainly think a little bit of downtime from the technology, including myself in that, is a good thing, and certainly we don't subconsciously. I don't think we realize how much we're processing and how much is impacting us, emotionally and/or in terms of our decision making when it comes to all the, especially the consumer data that's coming at us. So,
one thing that I've been amazed about is I've noticed that there are a lot of commercials out there that's becoming more informational commercials, like the one with AI, where they're explaining about AI. So if with some of our partners, our vendors would sponsor more commercials that would do that. In fact, they could take your students that did the talk before this started, right? And we could put those type of commercials out there and on TV for everybody to see it. And that's one way that we can reach a broader audience.
Yeah, because it's forever changing, as you all have said. And so we definitely need new ways to make sure that we keep everybody informed and to keep everybody safe too. Well, thank you all for joining us today for the seminar. Thank you, Dr. Dent, Mr. McKnight, and Dr. Christian for joining us today. We really enjoyed having you all and sharing this really important information with us today. So hopefully we'll see everybody in a few weeks. Our next presentation will be on November 12th with, I call her the other Dr. Washington, Dr. Nikki Washington of Duke University. So she'll be joining us, and so stay tuned for the next one. She's going to talk about why cultural competence matters. So there'll be a really interesting presentation. But thanks again to all of you all today for coming here and really sharing this important information. you know, I can't stress enough the things I have. I know I learned a lot, and from the chat, I can see that they have learned a lot too. So thanks again. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the day and the weekend.